What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel. And I wanted to do a short video just to talk about the news that came out from Arteta today. That was actually broken by Fabrizio Romano, that Thomas Partey is facing another injury setback. Yet another injury setback. We know he's had problems with his thigh that required an operation. Apparently, this injury is a further aggravation of that. And it's not clear whether he's going to be out for days or weeks. But I thought I'd reflect on the fact that this was a player that we signed from Atletico Madrid. A perfect signing almost. Somebody to really strengthen that defensive midfield position that we were weak in for so long. He was a really big part of last season with Granit Xhaka in that 8 position and him in that 6. Made such... arguably one of the best midfielders in that position last season. So to be without him all season as we have been, apart from that last game he played, the cameo where his long ball over was nodded down and we beat Manchester City as a result. Since then, absolutely nothing. Of course, there was a lot of talk that he was going to be fit in time for the AFCON. Then he wasn't. And now it looks like he might be out into March. And along with the injury to Jurrien Timber, it's easy to see how we might have struggled relative to where we hoped we would be. A lot of people have said, you know, Kai Havertz isn't an effective replacement for Granit Xhaka. I'm not sure that was ever really the intention. I think Kai Havertz was brought in to see where he would play in a number of different positions. Of course, you know, we've used the term Raumdeuter about him a lot. He deserves time to settle in. But I don't think the plan was really for Kai Havertz to play that 8. And with the game coming up against Liverpool, where so many of us had hoped to see Thomas Partey at least on the bench, I think we're more likely to start with Emil Smith-Rowe because Kai Havertz hasn't really cemented his place in that left 8. Emil Smith-Rowe for me is a fantastic talent, somebody who should have had more game time. He's had his own injury problems. But what does the future hold for Thomas Partey at Arsenal? Of course, in the summer, he was linked with moves away, not only to Saudi, but to Italy. Those didn't transpire. I felt at the time that if we could keep Granit Xhaka and sell Thomas Partey, I think I kind of fell out of love with Thomas Partey last season when his form dipped. And for me, it seemed like he always went missing for the really big games and wasn't available. And that's a problem in a team that's pushing for the title. But with his injury and with Jurrien Timber out, and we don't know when he's back, but perhaps he will play before the end of the season, it's easy to see how this has impacted on our chances of the title. Liverpool resurgent again under Jurgen Klopp, who we now know is leaving, but has done an amazing job of rebuilding that midfield with Szoboszlai, with Gravenberch, with McAllister. Somehow Klopp has brought these players in and got them firing on all cylinders. Their front 3, Darwin Núñez gets a lot of stick, but he's on 14 goal contributions this season. Up front, what can you say about Liverpool? 9 goals in the last 2 games. They look in a rich vein of form. I think they're starting to look like favourites for the league. And behind them, a Manchester City side who don't show any signs of slipping, even though they've lost some key players as well. This might have been a real chance for us to push on this season, and perhaps without the injuries we've faced, we might have done. But I also want to talk a little bit about the transfer window, because I can understand that with current profit and sustainability regulations, no team's really splashing the cash. Perhaps we didn't want to take a risk on spending big if we didn't qualify for Europe. And whilst I think that we are going to finish in the top 4 places and gain that Champions League position, which is so important to our financial well-being, it's starting to look a lot like we're settling for a season of maintenance. If we can hold on this season and maybe bring in some players in the summer, then, you know, perhaps with Klopp gone and Liverpool certainly under a new manager, probably need to do a bit of a rebuild. It's not clear that Guardiola, even though he's hinted he might extend his contract, he still hasn't. So he might only have 1 more season after this. Perhaps we are building towards a stronger season next season. But with all of the mitigation for the profit and sustainability regulations and us not bringing anyone in, there were the departures of Aziz and Sousa and Ibrahim that I think surprised a lot of us. I don't think I was ever really expecting us to go out and sign an Osimhen or a Tony. But I do think that given Jurrien Timber's injury happened before the close of the summer transfer window, the fact that we didn't go out and sign a replacement, and now in this window we haven't strengthened at all, so that we are basically playing with 5 defenders at the moment, and well, Cedric, if you count Cedric, 6. Thomas Partey, of course, started the season at right back and might have offered us some defensive cover there. Realistically, though, I think we would have seen him play in the midfield position. That he arguably last season one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. So to be without him has cost us a little bit. And of course, not quite firing on all cylinders. People have looked at our striking. People have looked at our attacking options as the weak part of the team. But Arteta said today, he said, you know, if we start scoring from all over the pitch, and Jesus scored against Forest, Saka scored against Forest, it's not inconceivable that we could get our goal scoring back. But we certainly, I think if you look at this game coming up against Liverpool, one that is eminently winnable, we are the bookies' favourites to win it. But you imagine how much better our chances would be if we had that midfield of Odegaard, Rice and Partey instead of Emil Smith-Rowe or Havertz complementing them and Declan Rice playing further back. Look, I am disappointed, I'm sure a lot of us are, with the window. It's frustrating that we couldn't capitalise on the strong performance last season and have a really good challenge. That said, we're 5 points off the lead. If we beat Liverpool, you could argue we're right back amongst it. And we have a run of games coming up where if we win the next 8 games, we would go into late March in the quarterfinals of the Champions League and probably only 2 points off the league leaders. So I'm not saying it's over, but I am saying that there are going to be questions asked about Thomas Partey. In the summer, I said that I would rather keep Granit Xhaka and lose Thomas Partey. There was interest in him from Saudi Arabia and Italy. That didn't materialise. We didn't take the money. And now, of course, it looks like that was a misstep. People talking about how Thomas Partey will leave in summer, I think that's a given now. But how much money can you realistically ask for a player who's heading into his 31st year and has the kind of injury problems he's had? We may not recoup a lot of money from that. If we do qualify for the Champions League, as I think is almost certain, perhaps there is a pot of money that we can spend. Kind of players that we need to bring in. We certainly need to strengthen the defence and the midfield. And depending on where you sit on the striker situation, I think we've seen another season of Eddie Nketiah not quite being strong enough. And for the game against Forest, I didn't think we had the options on the bench, and that's a worry. Overall, I think if you look back at Thomas Partey's career now at Arsenal, it's one that hasn't reached the heights it should have done. I'm sorry about that, and I'm frustrated about that because something's not been right there. I know he's had his off-the-pitch issues. Probably should have capitalised on selling him, and then maybe we would be in a different position. If you look at what Liverpool have done, just to go over it again, I mean, bringing in Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Endo looking good. They've done kind of what we should have done. And, well, I think looking at the league now, there was a supercomputer that ran projections on who it predicted was going to win the league. It has Liverpool favourites from Man City. Close, but we have only a 3% chance of winning the Premier League. And that seems about right. We have a, therefore, better chance of winning the Champions League. And certainly, if Arteta delivers that, then hopefully a lot of the clamour for him to go will subside. For me, we'll talk about this more in the coming months. But I think Arteta, if this is a maintenance, if this is a season of maintaining, it's not what any of us wanted. But if you look at what happened to Newcastle this season, if you look at what being in the Champions League means to a side, we're too thin a squad at the moment. And concerns around this transfer window, as I've already said, were that we've let players go rather than bringing anyone in. I'm not sure why Sousa is sold to Aston Villa. He's gone straight on loan to Plymouth Argyle, so maybe he's not an immediate impact player, but somebody that you'd like to see come through. I wish him well, as I do Aziz and Ibrahim. I think Runarsson, obviously another player to go. It's easy to see how if we don't beat Liverpool on Sunday, there's going to be discontent and less to look forward to. Certainly if they beat us, it's going to feel like we're just hanging on slightly ahead of Tottenham, of course, who play the early game tomorrow. And I could see them winning, going level with us. It's not what any of us as fans want, but it's not a collapse either. And we still have a very strong platform to build on. I would love to know what you think about it. For me, to summarise, Thomas Partey, it's a kick in the teeth. You know, it's a disappointment that he can't find fitness. I hate to say it because I kind of feel like maybe he just doesn't want to play enough. And that's an awful thing to say. I feel bad for saying it. It's just a gut feeling I've had about him for a while. Missing big games, never really being fully available. We are leaning a lot on players like Saliba, Declan Rice, Saka and Odegaard who have to play every single game. And now with our back four pretty much without cover, we're going to be asking Zinchenko to be fully fit all season. Ben White, who's looked tired at times. I hope that we can drive on somehow and find that spirit to cling on. I hope we can make it a title race into April, or maybe even challenge, maybe do the unthinkable. But I think the reality is, and as I said, we'll talk about this a lot more in coming months, I think this is a season just to hang on, get Champions League position, go as far as we can in that competition, regroup in the summer. As a final thought on that, I hope that this summer we don't necessarily do the big commercial trip. I don't think it does us any good in pre-season. I know when Arsene Wenger first came in, he used to like to take the team to Austria. No razzmatazz, no fanfare, just work on their fitness. And that's something that I think that Dubai might have been about. But I haven't really seen us come back fully refreshed. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are dissatisfied. I think for the majority of us, we're happy with progress. But we may all have to face the fact that we're not going to see progress this season. It's just going to be that brilliant season last season, maintaining somewhat, allowing for the fact that Jurgen Klopp's last season is going to be a massive one for Liverpool. And Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, they're just a level above. Our bench isn't as strong. I think first 11 we can compete with them, but squad game that it is. I do think that Aston Villa will slip away, and I still think that Tottenham will slip away. I don't think that the signing of Timo Werner is particularly impressive. And, you know, just to finally say that even though we didn't sign anyone in the transfer window, that isn't the worst outcome. The worst outcome would have been bringing in a Kim Kallstrom, bringing in somebody that we're just desperately bringing in hopes that they will be good and then seeing them not be. There's so many to choose from, Gervinho's and Perez. We haven't done that this season. I respect Arteta for saying if you can't improve the side that he doesn't bring anyone in. But it's hard for me to see how if you don't have any defenders, you can't improve on nothing. And so it's a mixed bag. But today's news that Thomas Partey is facing a further extension to his injury that might see him out until the end of March is a bitter pill to swallow. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Is Thomas Partey's time up? Is the party over? Had to do the pun, didn't I? And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And thank you for all your support. I'll be back tomorrow with a look at how we might line up against Liverpool and how we can go on to win that game. As I've already mentioned, Liverpool is a huge game for us, but the bookies have us as favourites and I can see us winning it. So, until I see you tomorrow, be lucky. Lots of love.